Thank you so much. Thank you so much for inviting me to join your rally. What a great honor. First, let me apologize to you, my Tibetan brothers and sisters. I do not represent any organizations or anyone else but myself. I'm here as an individual apologizing for all the atrocities the Chinese government has committed in Tibet. I am very sorry. On the way here, I was dreading, actually. I was feeling very sad. I've been haunted by the images of Xi, a human torch dashing through the crowd, the flames of his life and those of all the other self-immolators lit up the darkness in Tibet, China, East Turkestan, Southern Mongolia, and enlightened many people, including myself. We must not hesitate to act upon their excruciating pain and your excruciating pain. We've been suffering and waiting for so long. The Chinese government has illegally occupied Tibet for 55 years and has illegally occupied China for 65 years. They took China and Tibet by force. They took power with violence. They are not elected by the people. They are illegal. Just like a young Chinese man inside China told me, this evil empire must split up. Do you agree?
Yes!
Tibet cannot afford another self-immolation. China cannot afford another massacre. And the world cannot afford more human sacrifice. Why has it been so hard to fight for justice and fairness? And why? And these basic principles of humanity, we are born with that. Why has it been so hard to fight for them? Why have lies and violence been spreading all over the world? Why so much suffering still? The Tibetan people have been persevering an incredible resistance movement at all odds and shown the world an example of how a smaller group of people, while severely outnumbered by a monstrous regime for decades, you can fight a good fight. We know tyranny can never crush people's spirit and can never win, because truth and justice will prevail. Together. Now we see people in Hong Kong rising up against this tyranny, picking up the baton, taking the lead of the pro-democracy movement in China. Please offer your support to Hong Kong people. I moved to the city in 1997, a few months before the British government handed it over back to China. Back then there were small protests because people were hopeful China would keep its promise. And they were hopeful the Hong Kong's mini constitution, the basic law, would protect them. Now they just had a very rude awakening. Then they're acting upon it. Their slogan is "Come in," which means in Mandarin and Cantonese, fight against your fate. This is not your fate to be suffering. This is not your fate to be occupied. This is not your fate to be bullied like this. You are fighters and we are fighters. Now the Hong Kong people know they must resist and revolt. China, more and more Tibetans, Uyghurs, and Mongols are rising up against dictatorship. Enough is enough. We haven't suffered too much for too long. You have suffered for too much for too long. Hitler, the Chinese people gave you this nickname that suits you. You're the most ruthless ruler since Deng Xiaoping. Listen up. People in China are not those innocent students back in 1989. We're rising up and saying no to you. Say no to Xi Jinping. No. Remember Hitler's fate. You will be tried and punished for your dirty violent rule. The days of the Chinese Communist Party are close. And I have a message for India. Thank you, India, for giving the Tibetan people a chance to survive and thrive. Thank you. Thank you. Prime Minister Modi, other world government leaders such as British Prime Minister David Cameron have fallen to their knees, one after another, countering to China. And strangely, the United States, the world police, has been sheepish and blind to the atrocities keep happening in Tibet, China, East Turkestan, Southern Mongolia. And Obama, I have a message for you. You're such a wimpy kid in front of Hitler. The Chinese government is like a school bully. If no one stops it and let it get away with it, it will become a bigger bully. The United States, the world's biggest bully, has no guts to call out Hitler's name. Appeasement from the West is cultivating and encouraging a huge monster. Government leaders must wake up and call out the Chinese government. And we cannot wait for those politicians to act. We must unite and fight together. United we stand, divided we fall. The Tibetans, Chinese, Uyghurs, Mongols must come together. We're all up against the same brutal regime. And the Tibetans are being harassed everywhere in the world, including here in India, and in Nepal, and in Europe, for just being Tibetan. Why is this? There a dangerous trend spreading everywhere. It's because those government leaders in the rest of the world are either caught out or too timid and let themselves bullied by Beijing. We must continue to speak up and call them out. It's simply wrong to support a corrupt, violent regime. And the Chinese government has been corrupting the whole world with its sluggish way of doing things. The Chinese government has not only exported toxic goods and pollutants and shiny made goods, but immoral and harmful ways of doing things, encroaching on basic moral standards and basic humanity principles. Cheating, lying, violence, distrust, and bribery have become the norm and the new moral standards in China, unfortunately. Such ugly human nature has been encouraged, has been spreading all over the world. Tibet and China are in crisis, and the world will be dragged into a mess. We must act upon it, and the time is now. Now it's more urgent than ever. If we do not speak up and act upon it, then not only our brothers and sisters inside China, Tibet, East Turkestan, Southern Mongolia, not only them will have to suffer more, the whole world will be dragged into the dark ages. For brothers and sisters, you don't have to sell yourselves short. Demand what you deserve and what belongs to you. Listen to your own voice, and I hope your representatives listen to you. You, the ordinary Tibetans in exile and ordinary Tibetans inside Tibet. Tibet belongs to Tibetan people. Tibet was never part of China, should not be part of China. What would you think in Polish people during the Second World War asked Hitler for an autonomy after Nazi troops invaded their country? Ask not what the Chinese government will do for Tibet. Ask yourself as an Indian individual what you can do Tibet, especially those self-immolators. The flames of their bodies are silent screams trying to wake us up. If we know what is work together, we can all be somebody's and make change and make history. Mao Zedong once said, tiny sparks can scorch a whole plateau. Yes, the tiny sparks of us, Tibetans, Chinese, Uyghurs, and Mongols, we can scorch the plateau, and you will get your Tibet back, and His Holiness, and you yourself will be back in the Tibetan plateau. So let's speak up and rise up together.
Thank you.